The blizzard howled as if the tundra itself were mourning the dead. January 1945, Chukotka, where even wolves rarely venture beyond the coast. Two Chowchu hunters from the village of Yulin were returning from a hunt when their dogs howled, their noses buried in the snow. Under the white crust, in a shallow hole, lay a tiny body, a baby. Blue skin, frost-bitten fingers clenched into fists as if clinging to life to the last. The swaddling cloth, a rough cotton rag, cross-stitched, was the only thing that distinguished it from a lump of ice. No scream, no blood, only marks of strangulation on the neck, thin bruises from an adult's fingers. The Chowchu didn't touch the body. They knew such finds brought misfortune. They marked the spot with a deer antler stake and went back to the village to report to their superior. 3 days later, word reached the nearest NKVD camp, Pivak 3, where Germans were held, forced to mine coal and tin. There, in the barracks, where people slept huddled together and the potbelly stoves barely glowed, one man heard a whisper and realized it had begun.
His name was Otto Schmidt, 27 years old. A former corporal in the 6th Army, he was captured near Stalingrad in February 1943. After a filtration camp near Vologda, he was transported to the ends of the earth, to the Chukotka forced labor camp, where the Germans mined coal for the navy and tin for ammunition. Otto was tall, but already stooped from scurvy and malnutrition. His fair hair was matted with sweat and coal. His eyes, gray as the winter sea, had lost their sparkle. He wasn't a fanatic, didn't shout Heil Hitler even in the first months of captivity. He simply wanted to survive. The war had broken everything in him except one thing, the fear of exposure. Because in that hell, amid the snow and barbed wire, he found something he never expected: love.
Anna Kovaleva worked in the camp's medical unit. 22 years old, from Anadyr, a fisherman's daughter. She had been mobilized here, a nurse from a Red Cross training course. Thin, with a long, light brown braid that she hid under a headscarf to keep the coals from catching. Her eyes were green, like the moss on the tundra in summer. She treated both her own and the Germans indiscriminately because the Hippocratic Oath was stronger than politics. Otto came to her with frostbitten feet in the winter of 1944. She rubbed goose fat on his feet, changed his bandages, and sometimes simply sat beside him while he rambled in German. He spoke almost nothing Russian, but they understood each other without words. First a glance, then a touch of the hand, lingering longer than necessary, then secret meetings behind the bathhouse where no one went at night.
The ban was absolute. A German and a Russian woman, treason, execution on the spot. But the war had already consumed so much that fear seemed familiar. They met furtively in an abandoned coal dump, in an old yaranga outside the village where the wind drowned out their whispers. Anna brought bread, a piece of dried venison. Otto, the warmth of his body, the only thing that could keep the cold at bay. In the summer of 1944, she became pregnant. They found out in the fall, when their belly could no longer be hidden under their quilted jacket.
The birth took place in secret in the same yaranga. Anna screamed into a rag so the dogs wouldn't hear. Otto held her hand, whispering in German, "I'm so happy, I'm so happy." The baby was born small, weak, but alive. A boy. Anna named him Ivan, in Russian. Otto was silent. He looked at the tiny face, a mixture of his features and hers, and felt his insides tighten. If they found out, they'd both be shot. The child would be sent to an orphanage or worse, And if they hid him, they'd still find him. The paranoia that had been building for years burst forth.
That night, when Anna fell asleep from exhaustion and the morphine she'd injected herself with, Otto took the baby. He wrapped it in a rag. He went out into the blizzard. He walked for about 1.5 miles until he found a deep snowdrift near an old ravine. There, on his knees, he pressed his palms to the tiny mouth and nose. The baby twitched once, twice, weakly, soundlessly. Otto held it until the movement stopped. Then he buried the body in the snow and covered it with branches. He returned to the Uranga. Anna woke up, saw her empty hands, and screamed. He covered her mouth. "Hush, hush, this is for us, for both of us." She cried silently, thrashing in his arms. He whispered that everything would be okay, that they would have more children when the war was over. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning.
The next day, whispers began to circulate in the camp. Anna was pale, her eyes red. Otto worked as usual, loading coal into mine carts. But that night he couldn't sleep. He imagined the baby screaming under the snow, that someone had seen them, that traces would remain. He began drinking moonshine, the Chukchi distilled from berries. The alcohol dulled his fear, but didn't take it away. A month later, another baby disappeared in the village. It belonged to a Chukchi hunter. The mother went out for a minute to get water and returned to find the cradle empty. The entire village searched. All they found were wolf tracks. But Otto knew wolves don't carry off children so cleanly. He remained silent. He only looked at Anna. She was no longer crying, simply staring at the wall. And something new appeared in his eyes. Not guilt, but cold determination. If one child is a threat, then all children are a threat, because every cry is a reminder of what they've done and of what might be revealed.
In March 1945, when the blizzard had died down for several days, the Chauchu they found another body. The same one, the first one. The snow settled, the marker fell. The village elder went to the camp commandant. He summoned the NKVD detective, Captain Smirnov. An investigation began. For now, quiet, without noise. But Otto felt the circle tightening. He became more cautious, but fear already took on a life of its own within him.
Captain Smirnov, an NKVD Special Operations Officer at the Pevwick 3 camp, disliked snow. It reminded him of how easily everything disappears. In March 1945, when the first body was found, Smirnov arrived from Pevwick by dog sled, a 2-day journey across the tundra. He was 34, but he looked 50, his face deeply wrinkled, his eyes red from lack of sleep and tobacco. He examined the pit where the infant had lain. The bruises on his neck were distinct, from thumbs. Not a wolf, not an accident, murder. He ordered the body exhumed, though exhumed not really, just dug out of the snow, wrapped in tarpaulin, and taken to the camp morgue. There, the pathologist, an old prisoner doctor named Levin, confirmed the diagnosis: asphyxia, manual strangulation, age about a week. A cross-stitched diaper, typical for local Russian families, not Chukotka.
Smirnov began his questioning. First, Anna Kovaleva. She sat in his office, the former quartermaster's room, now a desk, lamp, and portrait of Stalin, her hands in the pockets of her padded jacket, her gaze fixed on the floor. She said, "I don't know anything. The child is someone else's." But her voice trembled. Smirnov noticed her clenching her fists when he mentioned the Germans. "Did anyone among the prisoners of war bother you?" he asked. Anna shook her head too quickly. He let her go, but kept watch. 2 plainclothes officers were monitoring the medical unit.
Meanwhile, Otto worked at the coal face. Coal dust had eaten into his skin. His lungs were burning. He heard whispers. The Germans are stealing children. For experiments, for revenge.
His paranoia grew. He began avoiding Anna, fearing she would break during interrogation. At night, he drank birch bark moonshine, which one of the Chukchi prisoners brought him in exchange for a pack of tobacco. The alcohol drowned out the cries of the dead child in his head. And then the dreams began, the baby opening its eyes and looking at him through Anna's eyes.
In April, a second one disappeared. A boy from the family of Tagrin, a Chukchi hunter who lived in a Yaranga 3 kilometers from the camp. His mother left him in a reindeer skin cradle, went out to feed the dogs, and returned 10 minutes later. The cradle was empty. There were no tracks, the snow was fresh, and the wind swept everything away within an hour. They searched the village. The dogs picked up the scent, but lost it near an old coal yard. The Germans often went there to load mine cars. Smirnov returned. This time he called all the prisoners of war to form up. They stood in a line, the wind whipping their faces. Otto stood in the third row, trying not to look the captain in the eye. Smirnov walked along the line, peering into faces. He stopped in front of Otto. "You, Schmidt, where were you last night?" Otto answered in German, and the interpreter translated. "Slept in the barracks." Witnesses confirmed this. 3 Germans nodded. But Smirnov noticed on the sleeve of Otto's quilted jacket a tiny tuft of reindeer fur. The same pelts had been in Tagrin's cradle.
Otto realized they were close. He began to plan. He decided if they found him, he would say it was the Russians themselves, or that Anna was to blame. But deep down he knew a third was already on the way. In May, when the snow began to melt, Anna approached him behind the bathhouse. She was thin as a shadow. "I'm pregnant again," she said quietly. Otto froze. Then he grabbed her shoulders. "No, we can't. They'll kill us." Anna began to cry. "You killed our son, and now you're afraid of another?" He slapped her across the cheek, not hard, but loud. She recoiled. "I'm protecting us," he hissed. Anna left without another word.
The third murder occurred in early June. A girl from the village, the daughter of a Russian woman who worked as a laundress in the camp. She was 2 weeks old. Her mother had been breastfeeding her and had fallen asleep from exhaustion. She woke up. The child was gone. They searched everywhere. All they found was an empty stroller and boot prints, large army boots, size 45. Otto wore just such boots, the ones issued at the camp. He carried the girl into the tundra, beyond an old ravine, the same place he had the first one. He strangled her quickly, almost mechanically. He buried her deeper. The snow was melting now, and he needed to hide her better. He returned to the barracks and went to bed. But sleep would not come. He heard crying, not 1, but 3. All 3 were calling him in German, "Vater, Vater."
Meanwhile, Smirnov assembled the painting. 3 cases in 4 months, all infants, under a month old, all from families close to the camp, all suffocated. He requested the POW's personal files. Otto had frostbite in 44, treated by Anna. Records, frequent visits to the medical unit. Smirnov summoned Anna again, this time with a report. "Tell the truth, Kovaleva, or you'll be charged with complicity." Anna was silent for a long time. Then she burst into tears. She told him about her love, about her first child, about how Otto took him away at night. "I thought he took him to an orphanage. I didn't know." Smirnov wrote down. Then he asked, "What about the others?" Anna shook her head. "I don't know, but he changed. He became cold, like ice."
Smirnov realized a clue had been found.
He ordered a search of Otto's barracks. Nothing. Just some tobacco, a knife, a couple of letters from her mother in Germany. But they found a rag under Otto's bunk, a diaper with the same cross as the first child. Otto hid it as a trophy, or as a reminder. Smirnov decided enough. He had to take him alive.
Otto sensed danger. He began hoarding food, crackers, a piece of dried meat. He planned to escape to the tundra, to the coast, maybe to the American side. Rumors were circulating that the war was ending. The Americans were close. But the tundra in summer, swamps, mosquitoes, hunger. He knew he wouldn't get far. And inside, a new feeling was growing, not fear, but rage. At Anna for betraying him, at the children for reminding him of him, at the whole world for not letting him simply love.
At the end of June, Smirnov set up an ambush. He set up guards near the barracks. Otto left at night with a backpack and a knife. He went to the coal storage area. There was a hole under the barbed wire. But when he crawled through, they were waiting for him. 2 men with machine guns. "Hands up, Schmidt!" He ran. A bullet whistled over his head. He fell into the snow and began to crawl. They grabbed his legs and hit him in the back with a rifle butt. Otto screamed, not from pain, but from anger. They dragged him to the commandant's office. There, in the lamplight, Smirnov asked only one thing. Why? Otto looked him in the eyes and answered in Russian with a strong accent. Love kills.
Otto Schmidt's arrest took place on the night of June 28, 1945. He was dragged through the snow, which was already melting and turning to mud. 2 guards held him by the arms, and a third walked behind him with a machine gun. Otto no longer resisted. After a blow to the back with a rifle butt, he was only wheezing. At the commandant's office, they threw him on the floor of the interrogation room. Captain Smirnov sat at the table, smoking a Bellamore cigarette and looking at him calmly, as if he were an insect under glass. Last name, first name, year of birth, he began in Russian. The translator, a young lieutenant from Moscow, repeated in German. Otto looked up, his lips split, blood dripping onto the floor. Otto Schmidt, 1918. His voice was hoarse but steady. Smirnov nodded. He placed a diaper with a cross in front of him, the very one found under the bunk. Do you recognize her? Otto looked. Then he looked away. No. You're lying. This is from the first child. We found the body. The bruises match your fingers, the size, the shape. Levin made casts. Now tell me, where are the others? Otto silenced. Smirnov waved his hand, and Anna was brought in. She stood in the doorway, wearing the same padded jacket, her face swollen from tears and lack of sleep. Otto looked at her, not love, but hatred. He killed our son, Anna said quietly. I didn't want to believe it, but then I understood. He was afraid they'd shoot us, and then he started killing strangers to numb his guilt. Smirnov turned to Otto. Confirm it. Otto spit out blood. Yes, I killed 3. He switched to Russian, speaking slowly. Because love, forbidden, she kills.
The interrogation lasted all night. Otto told everything about his first pregnancy, the birth in the Yaranga, how he strangled his son, how he buried him in a snowdrift, about the second, a boy named Tagrin, because he screamed too loudly, reminded me. About the laundress's girl, she looked at me with Anna's eyes and I couldn't stand it. He didn't offer any excuses. He spoke mechanically, as if retelling someone else's story. Smirnov wrote down every word. By morning, the report was ready, 23 pages.
The next day, the search for the bodies began. Otto showed the locations, under guard, in handcuffs. The first, the one already found. The second, in a ravine behind the coal depot. The snow had melted. The body lay in the mud, partially eaten by Arctic foxes, but recognizable. A tiny hand with a turquoise thread on its wrist. Tagrin's mother identified it. The third was deeper in the tundra, under rocks. The girl was better preserved, the cold slowing decomposition. She was wearing a hat with a pom-tom, the very one her mother had sewn herself. Nearby they found a rag soaked in blood and a fragment of a letter from Otto to his mother in Germany. He wrote of a hard life, but not a word about love. The evidence was collected in a bag: diapers, hats, turquoise thread, casts of bruises from the bodies, statements from Anna and 3 witnesses. 2 Germans from the barracks saw Otto leaving at night with rags. He didn't have a diary, he was afraid to write, but they found a photograph of Anna in his pocket, cut out from a group photo taken at the medical unit. On the back, in pencil, in German, Meine Anna, verboten, aber ewig. The case was referred to the District Military Tribunal. The trial took place in Magadan in August 1945, closed, without the press, as was customary in wartime. The charges: the murders of 3 minors, aggravated by particular cynicism, sabotage, allegedly undermining the morale of Soviet citizens, and treason, having an affair with a Russian woman, as moral corruption. Anna testified, sitting in the courtroom without looking up. Otto denied nothing. He merely said in his final statement, "I wanted to live and to love. The war prevented that. Now I will die. It is fair." The tribunal deliberated for 40 minutes. The verdict: guilty under Articles 58-1A, treason, 58-8, terror, and Article 102 of the Criminal Code of the RSFSR, premeditated murder with aggravating circumstances. 15 years in a strict regime labor camp, followed by execution of the death penalty. Execution. Confiscation of property, he had nothing. The sentence was final and could not be appealed. Otto was taken back to Pevek 3, but to a separate cell, a concrete box with no window, just a light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Anna remained in the village. She was untouched, but she was fired from the medical unit and sent to work at a fish factory in Anadyr. She no longer spoke of love. Only sometimes at night, when the wind howled, she heard the cries of 3 children she had failed to save. Otto lived in the cell for 3 months. In December 1945, he was taken out into the yard. The snow was fresh and clean. The firing squad consisted of 3 soldiers. The commander read the sentence. Otto knelt, unblindfolded. The last thing he saw was the white tundra and gray sky. A shot. His body fell into the snow. He was buried behind barbed wire, without a cross, without a name. Only a number on the grave. 47/319. The war ended. Chukotka remained the same, cold, merciless. But in the village of WWII, whispered stories lingered for a long time about a German who loved a Russian woman and killed children so that love wouldn't kill him, and about how snow hides everything, but not forever.